I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Ann Carden, and this week I have April Moss with me, who is doing some amazing things out there in the world, and I can't wait for you to hear from her. So, April, welcome to my show.
Great. Thanks for having me, Ann.
Why don't you just give everyone a little bit of background about what you do and your title and everything that you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's great. So it's April Moss, and I am one of the co-founders and COO of DigiBuild Software. And DigiBuild Software does all the procurement processing for construction projects. A little bit about my background. I spent 21 years with Procter & Gamble in different roles. My last position was running their North America operations for their second largest customer team. I worked and did some things with Starbucks for a few years, building out their first ever retail organization and ran that, and then worked for a large brokerage working with top CPG companies in the world. So just really took all that experience that I had working for big corporations and then applied it to a startup.
I love it. So now you're working for yourself doing all of this, right?
Yes, sir.
And what is the difference in being an entrepreneur and using and having all that experience in working in other companies, other organizations?
Yeah, I think I was kind of nervous taking the leap from working with a big corporation with all the infrastructure there. I think working for a brokerage helped me make that transition, because if you've ever worked for a brokerage, I think for every one life, they take off 5, but it was a lot of fun. I worked on their executive leadership program and did all kinds of roles of working with different companies, and I think that helped. But I really think when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's really taking those core skills of who you are, knowing your core skills, understanding who you are, and then just taking those and going to a new place and a new home. Obviously for me, learning construction and software, moving from a consumer products goods company was, quite a heavy lift, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed, just learning and still learning those aspects that maybe it's a new industry, but you still have all those skills that you had before. And I think the two things that really helped me the most is emotional intelligence, which a lot of people, that's coming back and people talk about it a lot, but it was really big back in the 90s. And that's when it really impacted me as a young entrepreneur and working for a big company, is that those skills of understanding, that first step of really understanding who you are and being able to take those strengths that you have and apply them. And then I think the second tag onto that would be strength finders. And you can, Clifton has it out there where you can actually go take this, little test. I think many of you probably out there in the audience have taken some type of personality or strength finders test before. But what I liked about it, it really identified and nailed down the things that I was very good at. And not, we're so mean to ourselves, we're our worst enemy, but we're always telling ourselves, oh, I can't do this. And we're always striving to do the things that we're not good at, or trying to be like somebody else, where it's like, really understand who you are and take those skills. And if you take those skills and apply them to any industry, any job, you're going to be successful.
That's so true. I see so many people, and you can probably relate to this too. So often when people decide to make the leap into entrepreneurship, they're trying to go out and learn a bunch of new stuff. And they're trying to, maybe they're even investing in another company to learn their stuff and all of that. But what they don't realize is they really have everything inside of them that they need, that if they could just put all of that, you figure out how to build a business around that. Number one, it's a faster path. And number two, it's so much more enjoyable because now you're not learning a whole bunch of new stuff to try to get started on your business. Because taking the leap into entrepreneurship, a lot of people don't realize, oh, wow, I'm going to be marketing 90% of the time until I build up enough and get enough going that maybe I can now start building out a team. All those things. Oh, I'm going to be selling. Oh, gosh, I have to do my own sales. Like those are the things that people don't really think about. And do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you have to look at failure differently. You're learning as you go, and failure is okay because maybe I didn't have the right marketing thing, or I presented myself wrong there, or, you're going to constantly be refining who your company is as you refine who you are and your skill sets. And so, we've made lots of mistakes at DigiBuild and learned from them. And they're not really mistakes. They just are lessons that, that you've learned along the way. I can't remember who said the quote. It was a really good one, but there was a real estate developer that had someone working for him, and they botched like $1 million. It was really big, contract that they had. And I remember the guy coming back and saying, in the story that, hey, I know I'm going to get fired. I understand. I botched this up. And he said, why would I fire you? I just paid $1 million for you to learn a lesson that I don't want someone else to have to learn. And that's how we have to think about it, right? You just get back up and you keep learning from that. What did I do wrong? And being honest, because a lot of time we're not honest with ourselves about what went really wrong. We're always trying to, I could have done this a little bit better, when really, I really shouldn't even have done that. And your gut is those feelings of learning that you've had through your entire life, the way your mind works. Everyone thinks it's a gut. There's no data behind it. Yet, if you go research what a gut feeling is, it's actually your mind and all the things that you've learned through your life telling you, hey, something's off here. So your mind's calculating all this stuff. So be aware of if something's a red flag or something doesn't feel right, just pause for a minute and go do some research.
So true. So good as well. When you got into the entrepreneur world, did you work with coaches or mentors or people that could kind of help you? Or did you figure these things out for yourself? What was sort of your process?
So one of the things that really helped us, well, one is, through your entire life, if you're getting feedback and you work for good companies like Procter & Gamble and Starbucks, they really have a great process of honing in on your skills and helping develop those. So all the things that you wanted to ignore that you learned through a life with them, you might want to go back and relook at them, because sometimes we ignore and say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, when they really do. And then I think the other thing is that we are very fortunate. After 3 tries, we were able to get into Y Combinator, which is one of the largest global startup incubators. And I would recommend to anybody, there's lots of them out there now, and any basic incubator or startup thing that you can get linked into, and a community of people where they're coaching and helping is always helpful, because that is one of the downfalls of when you're by yourself. You're getting lots of feedback from friends, family, colleagues.
It can be confusing.
It can be confusing. And if you can hone in on, hey, here's some of the basic steps of what to do to get started, I think that's always great for an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. Let's dive into that a little bit and talk about that. And one thing that you said, I didn't even really realize that was really popular in the 90s. I was in the corporate world at that time, and they did trainings and things with us, but I don't think it was called that. And so I became an entrepreneur, in 92, but I worked I worked out of my home for myself. So I wasn't exposed to all the things we have now on the internet. So let's talk about emotional intelligence. What is it exactly? What does it mean? How is it good for people? What should they know about it?
So I usually have this little chart with me on here, but I actually just got back from a business trip. But in a nutshell, emotional intelligence, the first stage of that, which I think is probably the most important, is to understand yourself, right? To really know your skill sets, who you are, and what's driving you, and really being honest about those things. Because a lot of the times we want to be somebody we're not because we emulate someone in our life, or we like someone because of something we see that they've done. And that's only been exasperated with social media, right? It's like, well, that looks like a great business person, when really they might be a great face out there and they have great words and can articulate things, but they could be really poor business people. So I think it's really, that's the first phase of that. And emotional intelligence has nothing to do with education. So that was very positive for me, because I grew up incredibly poor and I worked very hard. And when I joined Procter & Gamble, I was one of the few that ever got into the company that didn't have a 4-year degree, and didn't have a 4-year degree from like Harvard or Yale or Wharton or one of those, Ivy League schools, because we were so poor, we couldn't afford it. And so getting into those, so that was a core thing for me, is really that just knowing that it's not about your education. We get so stuck on that. We send people to college, we do things with them, and they're so dependent on what they think this one piece of paper is going to do for them, when reality hits and they get out in the world and that doesn't happen, So man, everything I learned just kind of fell out underneath me. Right. And so what that is first understanding who you are and identifying those things. Then it's really finding the disciplines in life. Do you have a disciplined life? Because that's very, very important, right? I mean, knowing yourself, the first thing, are you a morning person or are you an evening person? Accepting one or the other. There's actually studies out there. I just read this book, Why We Sleep, and there's studies out there that talk about that people are made as morning people or night people. And there's only like a few hours in between, a difference between the two. So just understanding your own patterns and adjusting your life to those patterns versus fighting those patterns, right? And that's about getting the discipline to go take those things that you've learned and actually apply them. And to be consistent with that, you can't get distracted. It's too easy today to get distracted. I think it's harder now to stay more disciplined because we give no margin or time to think, to write out stuff, right? Really hone in. And that's like that.
So much coming at us all day long.
There's so much coming at us that we've got to shut off the phones and just, even if it's 30 minutes a day, just think. We all have ideas and stuff in our mind and things we'd like to do, but it takes discipline to actually get those executed. So it's about that discipline and being able to do that. And then understanding people. That's another key piece. Right. It's like, what is it? Tune in, tone down, and listen up.
I love it.
So
that's
listening
good.
Is a very, very key skill and part of emotional intelligence, because we get too far ahead of ourselves. And that's my area, because I love the talk. I want to get ideas. I want to pull it out of people. I don't think there's a person I've ever met that I don't like or haven't learned something from. And so for my personality, it's like just really actively listening. That is very difficult because everybody's trying to send a message. And most of the time that message is about ourselves. And so just tuning into other people, understanding what's going on with them and how they're reacting to things. And then how do you help them as they can help you, right? So it's really, everyone says win-win, but it really comes down to relationships. And do you really care about people? And do you really want to speak into people's lives and help them with their businesses they're helping you as well, right? And it could be just little things like someone might just want someone to listen to them about, their life, believe it or not, in business, people don't, they're moving so fast that they don't have time to connect those personal things a lot of the time. And so that could be filling that emotional bank account, right? If you learn about the 7 habits of highly effective people, they really do work, right? Focusing on the big rocks. And so focusing on people and what matters to them should also matter to you. And you do have limitations of what you can do, right? So it has to be within what that's why it's so important to be disciplined about, hey, I'm going to do these things. And these are the people I'm going to make as part of my world, right? And so I think that's a key piece of it as well. But it doesn't matter what your education is. It's those things that are going to drive you and make you successful, not necessarily education. Education's a tool. I'm a lifelong learner. I have probably 8 classes left to get my bachelor, and I'm doing it just because I want to. And I would like to get in my master's because I want to learn a little bit more about international, business. And so that's why I'm driving for that. But I don't even need
you.
Yeah, there's so much information out there today. You don't really need to do it even. Just learn, apply yourself.
Right. So I want to hit on a few things here that you mentioned and dive a little deeper into them. So one of the things that really jumped out at me that you talked about is thinking time. And I have time set aside in my business where I think and I just work on my business and work on my ideas and sort of curate those because you cannot do everything when you stay in the weeds all the time and there's no downtime. I used to do this even for many years when I was building businesses. I would go away for a weekend a couple of times a month and no phone, I had my computer, but I didn't have internet. And so all I would do would just be work on ideas and things for my business. At that time, I had a health club and a weight loss center. And I would come back and I would have these ideas, and my employees would be like, "Oh my gosh, you went to the camper again, didn't you?" Because that was my getaway. And so I love that because that's such an important key thing. And I think a lot of times, just on another note, when people take that downtime, a lot of times they still fill it with other stuff. They don't actually take that time to completely disconnect and just focus. And 30 minutes a day is great. 90 minutes a day is better, but can you take a couple of days a month or 3 days a month or a day a week? What's your process? I would love to know.
I think that is absolutely amazing that you're doing that. I think more people I should do more of that. I'm getting away for a weekend. And I think you're right. You go away for a retreat, but we're not comfortable with silence. Right. And for me, I like people and want to be around it. And then when I get alone and I just start thinking about all these things, you have to have concentration of time, right? I can have ADD when I'm in those moments. And I mean, try to go 24 hours without a phone, without a TV, without radio, without your computer, with a pad of paper and a big sticky note. And if you saw my office, there's sticky notes everywhere. These sticky notes, that, and just sit there and think and maybe even divide it up, about yourself. So if you're even a mom, it's hard to get away as a mom, right? So I'll just use this as a basic thing. But if you took, early mornings or late nights, you're already doing that probably, but if you could just carve out a tiny bit of time and think about every one of your children and how you're influencing them and the things that you need to change in order to make them a better person, to make you a better person, what would that look like? And it's no different with business. It's no different with anything. It's just something personal. We leave no margin in our lives to breathe or think or to improve anything. And I think that's part of what we're all running. I love what you're doing. Yes. And my husband and I love camping. So we have a camper out there. And there's many times I've told him, I said, I just want to go out there and spend some time. And I'm a Christian. So for me, it's that time of prayer and alone time. And even though it's, my husband and I, my mom living in the same space, if I'm in my office, that's my office space, right? If I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking, if I'm, whatever that is, whatever room you're in, there's something that room's used for. And a lot of the time it's not just used for personal stuff, right?
Right.
So I think that's
you have to get away too, trying to do it at home because you've got too many distractions. Oh, I need to throw in that load of laundry. Oh, I need to go do this, or I need to go do that. So I love that.
I commend you, and that's fantastic. And that really is, I mean, maybe that should be my goal this year, is to have a couple days when I'm just going out to the camper.
Yes. Well, actually, I try to take even the last week of the month or every month off as much as I can, just to work on my business. So I don't only do it one day a week, but I also, because my biggest things are going to come when I have more time besides just squeezing in a day. So I take one day a week where I wouldn't say it's all thinking time. It's more working on my business, and it's the things that I need to do without distraction. But then I try to, as much as I can, take that week. And I also do work some other fun things in there within that week, but just taking that week off every single month, as much as I can do that, I try to do that. So
that's fantastic. With where I'm at with the startup, there's no week off with that, but I do take those moments because I have to have those. You refresh your brain, your brain actually gets refreshed. I think the other key thing is sleeping. And unfortunately, I wish I would have done more of this when I was younger. But I did just read a book that was pretty phenomenal, very scientific about the brain and how it works, and just how important sleep is to, actually it flushes your brain with your spinal fluids and cleans out, your thought processes and stuff. It's really pretty fascinating. So I think getting at least the majority of the time, if you can get some good sleep, that really helps as well.
Okay. So you talk about, really being self-aware. And I think there's so many things we could dive into with this, but self-awareness also comes from knowing how much sleep is what you need. Like I know for me, 7 to 7.5 hours is perfect. If I sleep less than that, I'm not on my game. If I sleep more than that, I'm not on my game. And so understanding what that is for you is really important. And then the other thing that you talked about is knowing whether you're a morning person or an evening person. Yes. And I really love that because there's a lot of books out there. What is it? The $1 Million Morning and Morning Miracle. And there's all these different books out there. But I have clients, for example, they're night people and they're so wired in the night. So they don't start their day. I start my day at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. And I've been doing that for, I don't even know how many years. And I love that time because even in my house, it's quiet. There's no distractions. It's just me. And I have my routine that I do. And then that's also my workout time. So building those things in will help you be so much more successful and so much more productive instead of just always hitting things hard, being on the go and just not really understanding what your clock is and what will work best for you. So I love that you brought that up. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think the other piece that I've always struggled with, and I'm a pretty transparent person, as you get older, you're a little bit more vulnerable and thinking maybe it would help other people. But you talked about that you had a fitness center. And so exercise is a very important part. And exercise isn't like has to do 1,000 weights and run 20 miles or whatever. It's just getting out and moving. And moving is so important. I've got a stand-up desk now, which has been fantastic. Our road, it's about 1/4 of a mile and it's paved. So even sometimes when I'm doing a quick, conference call, I'll take it while I'm walking, if it's not a client or something like that, where I have to be face on face with it. Even just getting out there, we take little breaks. People take smoke breaks in the old days. Today, just take a little walk break. So just anything to break up that monotony and help to get your body moving, because that's really important as well. It keeps, there's so many benefits to that as far as keeping your heart rate going and your blood flowing and your mind going.
It makes you think better too, and it brings stress down, and it does all of those things. Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about exercise in a different way too.
Right.
I actually like to use, and again, you have to figure out what works for you, right? But I'm like you. I love to learn. I love to grow. I'm always, feeding my brain, feeding my mind, and I will never quit doing that. But I like to use, actually, if I'm out taking a long walk, that might be the time that I listen to a podcast, or that might be the time that I listen to my coach, a video and things like that. And so and then sometimes I just want music because I just need to let go and unwind. And so knowing yourself, and that is all part of that self-awareness and not just staying in the grind all the time. And so many people do that and they wonder why they don't get off that hamster wheel, spinning their wheels. And it's because they haven't figured out how to build these kinds of habits into their life and into their business.
Well, and I think the exercise, just a little walk and stuff helps with, we're adrenaline junkies, whether we want to be or not. It's the next social media thing, the next news cycle, the next everything. And your body's just, that cortisone's just always going. It's fight or flight all the time. And your body, that's not good for your body, your mind, or anything. So, we're physical, emotional, spiritual, souls, and we've got to feed all aspects of those areas. And sometimes it's just a break, that you need from the monotony that's out there.
Yeah. So true. So true. We could have this conversation all day long. There's so much here that we could uncover, but I love this. I love talking about the emotional intelligence. You hear a lot about that in corporate and things like that there, but people don't think to use that as an entrepreneur. And so this has been really valuable, I think, too.
Yeah. And they can, there's tons of books out there on it. It's really easy to look at. And I think the thing is just being honest with yourself about all the, that's a tough thing. We want to tell ourselves lies, because we want to feel better about ourselves. And it's not even about stop, beating yourself up, just learn, look at it as learning opportunities. So I think that's kind of a key thing.
Well, and you have to realize too, that as you're stepping, especially if you're a startup and you're stepping into entrepreneurship, you have to really trust the process, and you'll go through, nothing will grow you like entrepreneurship. I truly believe that 100%.
Absolutely.
It will test every ounce of character. It will test every ounce of integrity. It will test, anything and everything that you can have thrown at you, you probably will. And so it builds strength. One of the things I just want to hit on real quick before we wrap this up is talking about strength finders and knowing your strengths. I just believe, though, as an entrepreneur, you need to understand the basic fundamentals of business. You need to understand how to market your business and what makes good marketing work, or what makes marketing work, what makes good marketing. You need to know how to sell. You need to know how to close sales. You need to know where you are strong and where you're not. But I do believe there are certain skills you absolutely should learn and not try to outsource those and push those off onto other people, because I'm the first one to say, the minute you're getting bogged down with something, you can't grow your business, you've got to outsource it. However, I just want to say you have to make sure that you understand the fundamentals of business, the profits, the revenue, all of those things.
If you don't, you're outsourcing it. You don't know what you don't
even know what makes it good if you're even outsourcing to the right people.
With software development, right? That has been the toughest thing for me to understand. And I've talked to lots of CTOs and CIOs and stuff along the way to just say, hey, is this process right? I'm always asking questions because it's still that software development. I'm not a mathematical person. So putting my mind around that, I actually took a couple of courses in coding, just understanding how it all operates, because how can I measure or understand if I've got great developers if I don't understand that world myself, right? And so I think you're spot on, and you can go broke outsourcing everything.
Especially if you don't know what you're doing, you'll just burn out money. I always say you can light it on fire.
They promise, and we've made those mistakes along the way as well.
I still make them once in a while. I think, okay, this person's got it, and then only to find out, no, it's not quite what I thought it was.
Too, in hiring people, I've spent so much time trying to hire people, and you think you've got someone and their resume looks good and the everything goes so well. And you're like, wow, I've just got this. And the reality is I wasted a lot of time over interviewing because you really don't know how a person's going to perform. You can go get all the references in the world. You can do all that stuff. And in reality, every little situation that someone's put in could be different from the time before. They could have been highly successful doing the same job in a different atmosphere, a different company, different people. And then you put them in your circumstances, and their life might have changed. Something might have happened. Their motivation, could have been adjusted. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. And so it's like, I hate to say hire fast, but you really do need to have that 30, 60, 90 day nailed down, and you need to execute as hard as it is. You need to have discipline behind that, because you can lose a lot of money and time. When you're an entrepreneur, time is money. And that was a really tough lesson for me, because I used some of the things I learned as skills at working at Procter & Gamble.
I was going to say, you were probably so analytical and things probably moved at a slower pace because there was all this red tape. Very different. Oh, no, I actually love that you're hitting on this. Yes.
Yeah, because you waste time and money, and it costs us actually time and development, which means time in getting to market.
Yes, that's right. And so not only all the opportunity costs that there are along the way, because you're not making the money that you could be, but you're also burning up money. So it's you're losing in two ways. That's right. That's right. No, I think that's so incredibly insightful too, because a lot of people,
they're afraid to make decisions. Number one, as an entrepreneur, you need to move quickly because people are passing you up all day long if you are sitting there thinking about things. And the more you sit and think about things, the number one, what is it? Fail faster. Fail faster is sort of the mantra of entrepreneurship, but it's so true because while you're sitting there thinking about it, it's kind of funny. So my husband is very analytical. And I have laughed for years. And I said, by the time you even think about starting it, I can jump in. I can completely mess it up, like screw it up royally and then fix it before you ever make the decision to do it. And so I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be smart, but you have to also make fast decisions. And when you're talking about hiring, you just have to know, okay, you give this person 30 days. I always say you can know what a person is going to be like and how they're going to work for you and what the dynamic is going to be in 30 days. Like give them the guidelines, tell them give them the expectations. And then if they do not meet those expectations, and realistically, obviously there's a learning curve, right? But if they don't meet those in 30 days, it's not a good fit. And the faster you can make those decisions, it sounds probably bad, but as an entrepreneur, you're not a big corporation, right? You don't have the funds.
It's not good for them either.
No, it isn't,
because it's torture to them. There's no reason to prolong that agony for either company. Let them go find what they need to. So I just posted on my LinkedIn yesterday, a colleague, friend of mine that I just met had said this. It says, don't talk, act, don't say, show, don't promise, prove. And if you can think that about that for yourself, but also for each person you're hiring, that's very important. People can talk a lot. What are their actions? They can say a lot, but what are they showing you? And they can promise a bunch of stuff, but they need to prove out that their talk is their walk, right?
I think that is a great way to end the show. I think that's powerful. That's so good. So good. This has been fun, April. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Yep.
How can people, do you have something you want to give away or something to?
Yes. So if we're actually doing a webinar this Wednesday, DigiBuild is, if you go to digibuild.com, you'll see, we'll send a link out there, but you can sign up for it to learn more about what we can do. We save contractors and developers out there a ton of money from the product that we provide them, 10 to 15%, which in construction margins are incredibly low. And we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, Chat GPT, and blockchain. So if you ever wanted to know, it's a great space to hop on and learn. And then you can also reach out to me via LinkedIn or info@digibuild.com.
And we'll put all those links in the show notes. So now, do you run that webinar?
Our CEO is going to actually run it. So he grew up in construction, and I'll be on there with some of our other team members.
Okay. The reason I ask is, do you run that every Wednesday? Because this probably won't come out right away.
Yeah, no, we're going to do multiple webinars. So
Okay. So if they go to if they go to that, they'll be able to see what your next webinar is.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. That's perfect.
Thanks so much.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. Make sure you share it if you know someone that could really benefit from this. And we always love to get your feedback. It just means so much when we get feedback that I'm bringing the value to you on this show. Experts, go rock your business and have an amazing week. God bless you. Until next time. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to go check out a free training that I have at expertinu.us. It is a training that I have on how you can get ultra premium dream clients, scale your business, get more freedom, and really simplify your business and multiply your money. So go check that out. And again, that is expertinu.us. I want to thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you found massive value. Please always leave a comment, feedback, or a question. We check them all. And I want you to go rock your business and make sure you join us again next week. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.